Welcome students. Today I am going to discuss Rabindranath Tagore's poem The Arrival, and this lecture is for the semester 4 students of BA English program course. Last day I have discussed Tagore's poem The Conch, and I have discussed in a very briefly Tagore's ideas about the world, his purview about the world, and how, from what perspective he used to conglomerate the principles of this universe. So in a nutshell, I have tried to give you a brief idea about Rabindranath Tagore's point of view concerning human being and the universal existence of the immanent self, and the negation of all negativities. Now, this poem that I am going to teach is titled The Arrival, and the Bengali is Agama. Now, this poem is also included in Gitanjali, but previously it was a part of Khea. Right? In Gitanjali, the English translation of Gitanjali, Song Offerings, the poem is included in number 51. Now, in my next lecture, the part 2 of my lecture, I shall go through the text of the poem, but I think it is necessary for you to gain a bit of knowledge about Gitanjali in general and how Rabindranath Tagore has incorporated his universal ideas. He is known for his internationalism, right? Not transgressing the narrow boundaries of nationalism or patriotism and arriving at a universal understanding of human existence. And this idea has been very delicately imbued in his magnum opus Gitanjali. We all know that he had received Nobel Prize in Literature for composing Gitanjali in the year 1930. So, as students of English literature, you should know the background and the ideals manifested or depicted in Tagore's Gitanjali. Now, the English translation of Gitanjali is a bit different from its previous Bengali work. Whereas the Bengali Gitanjali contains near about 152 poems, in the English translation of Gitanjali, which is titled as Song Offerings, we have 103 poems. Let me remind you that Tagore he received the Nobel Prize in Literature not for the translation of Gitanjali, but because an important point that you should know is that Nobel Committee does not give prize for translation. It gives prize for original composition of literary works. Now, these 103 poems which are included in English Song Offerings or Gitanjali, whichever you may say, is neatly it is structured in a very neat pattern, right? As if all the 103 poems are set in a chain, and each poem is conversing, each poem is talking with the other. The ideas generated in the very first poem is resonated in the last poem of this collection. And poem number 51 is included in your syllabus. Now, Rabindranath Tagore was one of the most illustrious exponents of the what we call as poetico-mystic consciousness of the modern era. And in Gitanjali, he has produced one of the best specimens of world literature, dealing various aspects of mind and art. Now, evidently, the major part of Tagore's poetry, which is depicted in Gitanjali, is energized by his mystic consciousness. There is no denying, we cannot deny, however, the fact that he definitely possessed a spiritual and aesthetic faculty which was eventually what we can call is invigorated by his mystic experiences. His father was the renowned sadhak of the contemporary times, Maharishi Devendranath Tagore, and Tagore has learned a lot from his father. Now, Tagore's view of life was the manifested realization of human integral existence and the faith in the absolute infinity, in Bengali what we call as Ashim. He absorbed knowledge from Upanishads, I have talked in the last class, and derived teachings from the philosophy of Lord Buddha, thereby speaking his own experiences and understandings at once at both at the individual level and at the universal level. Now, in Sadhana, he has written that to strike a chord of union between the success of the infinite and self-discipline of the finite is to realize the beauty. And here, the beauty is what we call the Sundaram, or the aesthetic consciousness of human beings. Now, Dr. Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan, our former president, he was a very versatile and scholar, right, an academician. So he, in his own words, the poems of Gitanjali are the offerings of the finite to the infinite, of human beings to the supreme being. However, at the same time, it is the voice of our own soul. The central theme is the realization of God through self-purification, through karma yoga or the service to humanity, and the detachment from all the mundane attachment and worldly pleasures. Now, in a poem of Gitanjali, Tagore is writing, "Into the audience hall by the fathomless abbeys where swells up the music of toneless strings, I shall take this harp of my life." So, an individual can know the truth about himself only through the interrelation with the external universe. That is what he is saying in this poem. This relation liberates from all the earthly enslavements, the mundane restrictions, and proceeds to have a mystic reunion with the God. Tagore, in Sadhana, he has written that it is the very characteristic of life that it is not complete within itself. It must come out. Its truth is in the commerce of inside and the outside. Now, when Tagore is referring to Upanishad, what he states? In Ishopanishad, we have the sloka Hiranmayana Patrena Shatta Swapitam Mukham Tattang Pushan Apabranu Shatta Dharma Drashtai. The translation is, like a lid to the vessel, O sun, your golden orb covers the entrance to the truth. Kindly open thy entrance to lead me to truth. Now, in his poem Janmodin, Rabindranath Tagore is writing, he is reiterating the same verse of Ishopanishad. What he is writing? Let's see. O sun, kindly reveal your blessed form. In that divine manifestation, I perceive my soul beyond death. Right? So you see how the ideals and doctrines of Upanishads and the ancient scripture are being reiterated by Tagore in his own poetry. In the Sanskrit aesthetics, we have the concept of rasa. Rasa means joy. Rasa in Indian aesthetics is the absorbed juice of joy in which the human mind penetrates Brahman. And this Brahman is actually the absolute being in Vedas and Upanishads. This Brahman is considered as the artist of the universe, who emerges out of his own creativity in the continuous drift of enjoyment and enjoys himself. As we have the verse from the Upanishad, Ananda Rupamritam Yad Vibhati. He manifests himself in eternal joy. And Tagore, in tune with this Ananda Rupamritam, the dynamic aesthetic principle, sings out that all the strains of my joy mingle in thy tune, the joy that makes the earth flow over the riotous excess of the grass, the joy that sets the twin brothers life and death dancing over the outside wide world. See, again the same theme. We have heard of the song Alo Amar Alo Ogo Aloi Bhubon Dhara. The Englishes are the light dancers, my darling, at the center of my life. And while Tagore is writing, is composing this song, he's saying, he's actually expressing his emotions at the particle level. Right? The concept that light can dance is embedded in his poetry, and therefore he too was postulating from an aesthetic standpoint and the wave theory of light. So, in our attempt to give a close scrutiny of Tagore's Gitanjali, we must consider the aesthetic aspect and the universal aspect, the consciousness that is gradually invigorating from his words, and we must keep in mind that there was no need to observe and understand the physical phenomena taking place in the external world at the particle level. Now, in the last poem, Ekti Namaskare Prabhu, Ekti Namaskare, Amar Shakol Deho Lutiye Poruk, Tomar e Samsare. The English translation is, in one salutation to thee, my God, let all my senses spread out and touch this world at thy feet. So, at last we can say that Tagore, having conceived the joy, the ananda of the Upanishad, the dynamic aesthetic principle, he is expressing his consciousness of the Supreme Being more effectively and analytically in the numerous songs. Right? It is his realization, his understanding of this world, of this vast eternal world, that one in many and many in one, with the help of his aesthetic and spiritual insight. So, on one hand, he is himself, the infinite, the Ashim, the Brahman of the Upanishads, the Almighty God, the divine universal being, who is subsequently the creator of the world, and to him Tagore is offering his songs, Geet Anjali, song offerings. This is that being, সেই সত্তা যাকে তিনি তার গান উৎসর্গ করছেন. And the poet seized with absolute contentment makes total offering of himself at the feet of the divine. And that is what we are seeing, we are witnessing in the last song of Gitanjali. So in my next lecture, I shall be discussing the detailed analysis of